Thanks for clicking on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm Curtis Smith, and I invite you to subscribe to our podcast and to like and share it as well. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. We're into this new podcast by about a month or so, and today we are joined by Kyla Neely. She is one of the licensed therapists at Crosswinds Counseling. Kyla, thanks for being with us today.
Definitely.
Tell us a little bit about your time with Crosswinds. How long have you been a therapist here?
A little over 2 years.
Great.
So started in March of 2021.
And you're in Fort Wayne.
Yes.
You can find out more about Kyla and all the therapists at crosswindscounseling.org. Kyla, let's talk today about something that you're passionate about, and that's perinatal counseling. Tell me a little bit about what that means, who you're working with, what are some of the issues in that space?
Yeah, so perinatal mental health looks at the time period of the moment a woman gets pregnant to a year postpartum, so a year after she gives birth to the baby. And that can be a wide range of things. So we can look at fertility issues early on, all the way to postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, things like psychosis that can happen postpartum, or even if we have a traumatic birth. So it's definitely a wide range of things.
Yeah. So I know you hear about this, but I don't know a lot about it. How many women go through that? It's probably, I suspect, more than you think, right?
Yeah. So 1 in every 10 women experience postpartum depression. And I think the statistics, like 1 in every 7 men can actually experience postpartum depression or anxiety.
Now, are you serious? Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, I am the father of 3.
Uh-huh.
I distinctly remember not being pregnant.
Yes.
While my wife was. And am I wrong here? I always kind of thought it was the fact that your body has changed so much, and then you have this amazing life in you, and it leaves your body, and that is what's causing some of the postpartum issues. So without going through the physical part, why would that impact a man? How does that play out in the life of a male?
Yeah. So what you said is completely valid, and I think society, that's what we look at it.
Yeah.
And what is different, or maybe how I try to explain it to clients, is just because you didn't experience the hormonal changes and things like that, truly for women, that's not what causes the postpartum, right? So there's a difference between postpartum depression and the baby blues. So we have about like a 2-week period where, because your hormones are changing and all of that, like you experience whatever you experience in those moments.
Right.
But when looking at depression or anxiety and like actually meeting that criteria, for men specifically, I guess I can report my husband met criteria for postpartum anxiety. So up to having our first child, our son, chill guy, nothing, no highs, no lows, just even keel. And then really struggled with, like, how am I going to provide for him? Like, what does this look like that I have to be the protector? I have to be the provider. And so there would be nights where he would wake up, not because baby was crying, at 3 o'clock, and mine was just racing.
Wow.
Couldn't slow things down. And so for someone that even works in this field, didn't even cross my mind that that's what he was going through. I was thinking, like, I need your help here. Not even thinking about that. So there is a huge component for men in that process too.
Wow, that is so interesting. Yeah, I guess in my mind I've tied so much of it to the physical. But it makes sense. I certainly remember those thoughts. My kids are all adults now, but I remember when my wife gave birth thinking, am I going to drop this baby?
Yeah.
How do I hold this baby? And then bigger, more important thoughts of how am I going to provide? How am I going to keep everybody safe? You know, what are our lives about to look like now? Because it's such a drastic change.
Right.
So it's interesting that it can be a male issue as well. Do you end up working with a lot of men in this space, or is most of your work with women?
Most of my work is definitely with women, but I do have a lot of conversations with, like, what does this look like for your husband as well? And so it's not always a big thing when looking at this, like postpartum in general, is how can we connect with each other and how to find that support. So most of the time, like if the wife is experiencing something, the husband may not meet criteria, but is going through something similar too.
Do you think that's a revelation for wives? I wonder if they come in thinking, I'm going through postpartum issues here, and it's never crossed their mind that their husband might be going through some of that as well.
Yes, 100%. And even I can, for myself, like that was something like, oh my goodness, like this makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily like whatever negative thoughts were going in my head at that time. Like we give each other grace. You look at things differently.
Right.
And the goal of parenting is to raise good humans. And so when mom and dad are doing well, like you're going to raise a good baby in that moment too.
So for somebody out there who's watching the podcast who maybe has experienced postpartum depression or is pregnant right now and concerned about it, or is going through it right now, what tips might you have for somebody who's in that space, has been in that space, or is worried about possibly being in that space?
I think planning ahead, like advocating for yourself if you're an anxious person, or if you've experienced depressive symptoms, or if you have a diagnosis going into pregnancy, talking to your doctor about that is super important. And then after, if these symptoms do come up, like finding locally, like there's a group here that's called the Mom Walk Collective, where moms just get together and they walk. I think it's like Wednesday mornings. And so finding community and finding different support groups like that. Postpartum International is another website I often give clients, just so that you have connection to something.
And then when you get into the work of counseling with women mainly, but maybe men as well in this space, what do you find connects with them, works with them? What is some of the work that you're able to do that actually helps to make real progress?
I think initially a lot of it is just normalizing, like you aren't alone. You're not a bad mom for feeling this way.
Yeah.
You're not.
Do people come in with that misconception of, oh my gosh, I feel this way, I must be a bad mom?
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. Is
Wow.
that just, I'm not caring for my child enough, or I'm not strong enough to care for my child because I'm feeling this way, which are all irrational thoughts and not the reality of what's really going on in that situation.
Right. So you get into that, you dig into that, and then where do you go from there? How do you help people make that real progress out of this?
A lot of it, like, it's that connection. So finding that support. And I think most of the work can come down into like separating like what's reality versus what are some of the irrational thoughts that we have. And so that's something I like to do with clients, is like, we talk about expectations is kind of how I break it down with like, what is your expectation as a mom? Is it fair to expect yourself never to have a breakdown? Is it fair to expect yourself to always want to be with your baby 24/7? I kind of make the joke, like, I don't love my kids at 3:00 in the morning when they wake me up, and that's okay too. And so normalizing some of those thoughts and feelings through that process.
Wow. How hard is this to get through? I mean, it's over the last, 20, 30 years, I feel like it became a talking point, something you would hear about. So I know it's a widespread problem. You said 1 in 10 women. How successful are women in getting through this?
I think, I don't know how to answer maybe like a concrete on success, but I think if we look at the research, like getting through it is just getting help. And so that's a big distinguisher for postpartum disorders, is this is not something that's just going to go away.
Yeah.
And so whether that's finding support groups or community support, going to therapy, doing medication management, there has to be a shift if you want to get through this.
That makes sense. Reaching out to a therapist is something that can create, anxiety or concern. There's this stigma we always talk about. Do you find that exists, or is it maybe less so in this population because they're so concerned about their baby and their marriage and whatever else is going on that's changing in their life? Does that help the stigma to go away, or do you find that a lot of women are still resistant to take that first step into counseling?
I think still resistant, because I think it goes back to that shame of like, I'm not a good mom, or I'm not doing this right because I need help. Yeah.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Yeah. Kyla, thank you so much. This is a great topic because this is something that affects so many, and we need to help people get out of that space, right, and get into a healthier place as they raise kids and hopefully become the best parents they can be.
Definitely.
If you would like to know more, Kyla Neely is an expert. You can go to crosswindscounseling.org, find out more about Kyla. Perhaps Kyla is your next therapist. Perhaps you need to connect with her. You can go to crosswindscounseling.org and make an appointment, schedule an appointment there. Look, maybe in Fort Wayne, it's Kyla. Maybe if you're somewhere else, it's a different counselor. But so many experts here at Crosswinds Counseling, and they're waiting to help you today online at crosswindscounseling.org. Kyla, thanks for being with us today.
Definitely. Thank you.
We will see you next time on Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling. Thanks for watching Conversations with Crosswinds Counseling today. I hope it was helpful for you. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Like and share it as well. We appreciate that and hope you have a great day.